Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. Let's fly to Philly, Familia. Let's fly, Eagles, fly. We're talking
Sure.
Eagles today. Oh, yes. Let's go. And you know what? You don't want to miss an episode of this. You know what? I've got its own It's got its own playlist. There's no excuse. You could just turn them on a long drive. Just go through as many as you want. This is what you want. This is the content that you need. The NFL Insider Series. And joining us today, in baseball they go 4 for 4. We're going 4 for 4 today. The 4 years of doing the NFL Insider Series, Conor Myles, mi compadre, mi amigo, has joined me every year to fill us in on what's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. Some changes going on, but hey, you know what? He's going to bring it to you. He's the host of Eagles Unfiltered. It's on the Believe Network. Make sure you're checking it out because they're going to have some great content once training camp comes in. So let's welcome in, compadre. Estás en tu casa. Welcome. Bienvenido.
Jorge, it's always an honor to be on here because I actually, as a fan of this show myself, listen to this series because he's right. These long drives, everybody has a commute. It's 2024. We're all driving. We have some type of commute we have to go through in our lives. And I listen to podcasts when I go through commutes. And once you had me on this show and you told me, hey, these are the guests I'm having on for the Giants, Cowboys, and other teams, I said, wow, actually, that's pretty compelling because most fantasy shows I listen to, it's one guy talking to you about his opinions because, Matthew Berry, all these big fantasy guys, they did what they did to get to where they got, and people listen to what they have to say because they deserve it. They got their notoriety from working hard. I am a guy who likes to listen to multiple opinions at once. So that's why I love this series and I love what you do because you bring in multiple people that you discuss stuff with, and maybe you think something different from them, and that's fine, but you don't let that be known because you like to hear everybody out for what they have to say. And I enjoy those type of, discussions and debates. So that's why I love this series. I'm honored to be a guest on here all the time.
Well, I mean, it's great. One of the things I love, it's like, sometimes I'll come in with an opinion and I'll either get it confirmed or I'll get, hey, you know what? That's not what's happening. This is what's happening with this. That's why I love doing this series, and that's why I love bringing you back. And you know what? You're gonna help me right now. Let's just dive into the main man. The main man, the el numero uno, the guy who's at the center of this whole thing. Jalen Hurts. Now he's got a new OC with Kellen Moore. And as we talked about beforehand, he interviewed for the job that Nick Sirianni eventually had.
Correct.
And now he's coming in. Is this 3 years in a row with the new offensive coordinator?
This is going to be the third consecutive season with the new offensive coordinator. Yeah. So Shane Steichen in 2022, Brian Johnson 2023, and now we're going into Kellen Moore in 2024.
So and plus in his college years, he had a new offensive coordinator. I mean, obviously he switched over to Oklahoma during his time. So this is a guy who, he still was one of the top 2 quarterbacks when it came to fantasy scoring last year. Still scored mid-teens. I think it was 15 touchdowns on the ground last year. The tush push, the Philly. I like the Philly special better even. But you know what? The brotherly shove. I'm sorry, the brotherly shove, not the Philly special. Philly special's a Nick Foles kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's a Super Bowl play there, man. That's forever entrenched in our minds. But yes, the brotherly shove, correct.
But yeah, so this is a guy who having to learn the new system. But I want you to kind of like, can you kind of enlighten me on kind of how the process is going? He's obviously a very cerebral person, coach's son, so he's going to pick these things up quickly. I mean, he's in his prime. Are we still looking at a top 3 fantasy quarterback this year?
100%, absolutely. I think the best thing about his history, as you're talking about, because Shane Steichen from 2021 to 2022 was his first time he had an offensive coordinator for back-to-back years since he was in high school. So that was huge for his success and development in the league. But this is something that he's accustomed to his whole entire football journey of going through a new offensive coordinator every year. Like you said, at Alabama, he went through one every year. And then he went to Oklahoma. He was Lincoln Riley's system. So this is something that he's already grown accustomed to, even in the NFL with Doug Peterson switching over to Nick Sirianni, switch over to Brian Johnson. I mean, after Shane Steichen as offensive coordinator, and then switch over to Brian Johnson. And now he's going to Kellen Moore. I think the best thing about the switch to Kellen Moore, though, is Kellen Moore's the perfect offensive coordinator to maximize Jalen Hurts' development. And what I mean by that is look what he did with Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts, as much as Eagles fans, as much as Cowboys fans hate to admit it, were similar prototypes coming into the league, being that that quarterback in college that you didn't really know was a superior athlete, superior arm strength. You weren't really sure about him, and that's why they went in their respective rounds that they went in. So I really like this Kellen Moore hire because I thought Kellen Moore turned Dak Prescott into a more prolific passer than he ever was as a football player. I think he can do the same thing with Jalen Hurts too and maximize Jalen Hurts' talent at throwing the football because Jalen Hurts has the talent to throw the football very well. Can he do so on a consistent basis yet? That's yet to be seen. I do think he's a franchise quarterback. I do think he's a special talent. I do think he could win with this guy. It's proven in this league that he has, but he's 27-9. His last 36 starts. So I do think that Jalen Hurts is the quarterback for the Eagles. I do think they have the right guy in place. I do think he's a top talent in this league, and 100% he's a top 3 fantasy quarterback because you still have to count for those rushing touchdowns, and all they do is add weapons. Because I know everybody's looking at the Saquon Barkley edition, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit, discuss that a little bit more into detail. But that also improves the passing attack even more because now you have to account for not only the rushing attack that the Eagles have in their backfield with having a superstar talent at running back, but he's also a great receiver as well. Like this is going to be the Christian McCaffrey to 49ers type impact that everybody's hoping for it to be. It is going to be that with Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. So what is that going to do? That's only going to make it easier for your quarterback in a system that's quarterback friendly. That's going to maximize him as a passer. So I think he's a top 3 fantasy quarterback. Maybe not so more for his rushing touchdowns this year, but what he's going to be able to do through the air. It's just going to be endless opportunities. And this Kellen Moore system is just going to be so easy, quarterback friendly for him and easy for him to get. It's going to take a couple of weeks for him to really acclimate to the system. It's not going to be, a huge 9-day difference because, I don't know if you remember in the first season with the Cowboys and Kellen Moore taking over, it took a little bit. And what really jump-started it was them getting Amari Cooper in that trade from Oakland. That's what really opened up that offense even more. Luckily for Kellen, when he comes into with the Eagles, he already has the A.J. Brown. He already has the DeVonta Smith. He already has the Dallas Goedert. And then he's already got the Saquon Barkley now. He's got the pieces in place. It's all about getting those pieces to get buy into the formula. And that's going to take some time. As you know, as any football fan knows, it takes time to bring out that chemistry. It takes time to implement a system because I don't care what the Eagles are saying through the media. I know they're saying that this is still – it's going to be Kellen Moore's offense, but they're still bringing in Nick Sirianni principles, and they're asking Jalen Hurts what plays he likes, he doesn't like. Forget all that. That's all media speak. This is Kellen Moore's offense he's implementing. This is completely Kellen Moore's system. And like you said to start the program off, Kellen Moore interviewed for the Eagles head coaching job, and they went with Nick Sirianni instead. So the fact that a couple years down the line, the Eagles did everything they possibly could to secure Kellen Moore, and they paid him a lot of money, too, as an offensive coordinator to bring him into Philadelphia and to implement his whole entire offense. That says a lot of what the Eagles think about Kellen Moore. And I really am excited for what he's going to do for the Eagles offense this year, especially with Jalen Hurts. I think you're going to see a whole new quarterback. Yep, I can hear you now.
Sorry about that. I hit the wrong, but I thought I was unmuting myself. Do you see them attacking the field differently? Because I thought the vertical game under Shane Steichen was one of the best ones I'd seen in 2022. I mean, it just looked like he was throwing the ball 40 yards on a line and just dropping it in the bread baskets. Last year, it was a little bit off. Obviously, the knee maybe played a part in his performance, but are you expecting more of a vertical game, which obviously is going to be really good for A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith?
Yes, to an extent, but I'm actually expecting more of attacking the middle of the field. Ooh. And that's something that the Eagles have not done. Nor has Jalen Hurts. That's been one of his major weaknesses. I'm expecting more of the, hey, I'm seeing people open right away, so let me get the ball out right away type of passes instead of holding on to the ball for a little, because he did struggle with this. This was his number one thing last year. I thought he struggled with was guys weren't getting open because the system was so complicated and complex that they just weren't understanding. There was no Jalen Hurts and Brian Johnson in that system last year were never on the same page. And when they weren't on the same page, the receivers were on the same page. And that caused a lot of confusion and caused Jalen Hurts to hold on to the football way longer than he's accustomed to. That's going to be the thing that this year that's going to be majorly different is that how fast he gets rid of the football. And the reason why is because he's going to see guys open right away. So, yes, they are going to be attacking vertically, but I think they're going to be attacking the middle of the field a lot more, which is good for Dallas Goedert. I think Dallas Goedert's going to be a great tight end this year for fantasy purposes. I know you look at Kellen Moore's pass. Yeah, I know Dalton Schultz emerged somewhat more under Mike McCarthy than he did so under Kellen Moore, but I think that's going to be a little bit different this year because Dallas Goedert in this Eagles offense isn't like what Michael Gallup was in the Dallas offense when they had all those receivers there.
Right.
That's what you want to look at more. He's not really the Dalton Schultz type. He's more like the Michael Gallup type. He's really the Eagles wide receiver 3. I know they had Paris Campbell. I know that they drafted Anais Smith. I know they have Johnny Wilson. These guys competed for wide receiver 3, but the wide receiver 3 on the depth chart's not really going to be the wide receiver 3 through the stats for the Eagles. It's really going to be Goedert. So I think it's going to be a good year for him too, as well, from the tight end side. I think because they're going to be attacking the middle of the field where he thrives at. But I think you're going to be seeing a lot of slants. I think you've seen guys a lot of just trying to get AJ Brown and DeVonta Smith open, especially AJ Brown, because you know how he is with the yak. So I think you're going to see a lot of that this year.
You know what? Let's expound. Let's pull on the thread with AJ Brown. I mean, he got off to that spectacular start last year. I mean, he was just phenomenal. When the offense, they were 10-1, the offense started to sputter, and it didn't work out as well for him there at the end. Where do you he's going, late first round, early second round in best ball drafts right now. I mean, this is a guy who's in his prime. I mean, he clear wide receiver 1. How are we expecting him to attack the field this year?
I think that's properly drafted for him just because of how many options are on the Eagles offense this year, and adding that Saquon addition is his stats aren't going to be as inflated as they have been these last couple of seasons, which is saying a lot because what he's doing is like 1,500, 1,400 yards the last couple of years with the Eagles. So I think you're not going to be seeing production like that per se. So I think he's being drafted in the correct areas, to be honest with you. But he's still going to be AJ Brown. I think what really derailed his season at the end of it was the injury. He wasn't fully 100%. And when you're not fully 100% and being the vocal point of an offense and getting all the attention from a defense in the secondary, you're going to see what happened there. And the Eagles offense really fell apart because they couldn't. The Eagles offense was never that great last year. It was always a dysfunctional unit that was winning because AJ Brown was doing insane stuff. He was doing things that were unheralded, Calvin Johnson type impact to the field. So that's why the Eagles offense was so successful last year, is AJ Brown was being the superstar and carrying the offense on his back. And when he wasn't able to anymore, you saw what happened. They completely fell apart. So this year, I'm not expecting him to be, hey, AJ, do everything. I'm really thinking now that they paid a DeVonta, they're going to say, hey, DeVonta, you're not on the rookie deal anymore. You have nothing to prove to us anymore. We're ready to, put a little bit more on your plate and handle more of AJ's load, so we're not putting so much onto his plate so he doesn't get banged up like he did at the end of the season when we need him the most, because we didn't even make this up the Super Bowl run. I think DeVonta Smith is going to have a year where you're like, wow, I didn't know if he was capable of that, just because of how much this offense is going to have such a huge impact. And again, this Eagles defense, say what you will, I know they got Vic Fangio and everything, but I don't think they're going to be that much improved. I still think they're going to be a middle of the pack unit that teeters around average. So I think the offense is going to have to carry this team once again this year. And with this Kellen Moore offense, all you're thinking about, since he did it in Dallas, they led in points per game, is how much are they going to score? What is the capability of this offense like? Are they going to go out each week and score 35 plus points? And they're going to have to win with this defense. So that's why I'm looking at guys where I'm like DeVonta Smith, and I'm telling you Dallas Goedert, and
right.
And we're gonna talk about it after this, but Saquon is gonna have a phenomenal year, even with Jalen Hurts' rushing ability. I think that, we're talking about the tush push, talking about the brotherly shove, and talking about Jalen Hurts' rushing touchdowns earlier when we talked about he had 15. I think all those things take a step back this year, and Saquon takes the step forward. And the huge reason why is because they don't have Jason Kelce anymore. This is Cam Jurgens being at center now. I think the huge reason why Howie Roseman felt compelled to go after Saquon in free agency is because he said, I don't have my Hall of Fame center anymore, who really ran the rushing offense, who called the plays, who called out which guys were where. who really led the lanes opened up. I have Cam Jurgens now, who's coming in, a great player. We drafted him hoping he could be the next Jason Kelsey because he literally told us, I think this guy's the next me. But it's still going to be an adjustment period for the Eagles offensive line because that now you don't have the guy that the signal caller anymore, and the chemistry is going to take some time to get correct. And Cam Jurgens has to be Cam Jurgens, the second round player you drafted him to be. So this is going to take time. So why not go get the star running back while you can, who was willing to come to Philadelphia for a modest price? I know that they paid him, but they did. But I mean, for Saquon's ability, this is like Christian McCaffrey going from the Panthers to 49ers for the Eagles. This is really, he's going to bring that type of impact to their offense, and it's only going to open up more windows and possibilities for them to score. So I don't think you're going to be looking at them relying on the tush push and the Jalen Hurts 1-yard touchdowns as much anymore when you have a guy like that, because he's going to be able to score from every angle of the field.
Oh man. Well, one last question on DeVonta Smith, because then I want, and because I mean, you covered guys before you did my job for me, so it's even better. Because you already gave me the Dallas Goedert, but DeVonta Smith being such a good route runner, and you're talking about kind of hitting the middle of the field, is that where you think he's gonna show the most improvement in his final numbers, where people will be surprised at how good a season he had?
Yeah, because we talk about are the Eagles going to be vertical? I think they were so dedicated to their vertical concepts last year that they want to take a step back from it this year. And huge reason why they hired Kellen Moore was because of how he schemes guys open in the middle of the field. And DeVonta, that's what they really look, because that's why I'm really leaning on to where I said they're going to increase his usage. That's where he thrives the most. We know what size he is. We know he wins with the size because he has been in the league. But how many times have you seen his highlights where he's making these crazy jump ball catches on these deep passes? Too many times. He's so much capable of so much more. You just have to get the ball in his hands. And I think they're going to do so. I know a lot of Eagles fans hated these wide receiver screens, but I think Kellen Moore's going to implement them correctly this time around. He's going to use the correct guys for them, like a DeVonta, instead of like a Julio Jones when the Eagles were doing that last year, which is ridiculous, by the way. And then you're going to see the slants. You see the curls, everything with the middle of the field that DeVonta can win with. You're going to see with him on these post routes and everything. So I'm excited for him the most. I think you're going to, that's like I said, I'm making this bold claim now. I think you're going to see a DeVonta Smith type fantasy production and a type of season where you thought, wow, I know he was good, but I didn't know if he was that good.
Oh man. Oh, love it. Love it. Well,
I mean, look what Keenan Allen did it wasn't a phenomenal year offensively for Los Angeles Chargers, but a lot of it had to do with Justin Herbert's injury. But Keenan Allen had a great year in Kellen Moore's system still. And look what, again, Michael Gallup, I know he fell off the face of the year since his injuries, but he was very productive in Kellen Moore's offense. I really think you're giving Kellen Moore, Keenan Allen's at the end of his career. Michael Gallup is who he is. DeVonta Smith is just in his prime and is a Heisman Trophy winner. And he's he's better than what the NFL world knows he is. I'm telling you right now. He really is. I see him every week. We watch him in Alabama. This guy is, I used to think, I don't think it anymore because of what AJ Brown has done since coming to Philadelphia. But I used to think that there was a possibility DeVonta ended up being better than him at some point. And there still is, to be truthful with you. DeVonta is, if there wasn't, like I say this all the time, and everybody says you're overreacting, but I'm telling you, people might put this to bed after this season in this Kellen Moore offense. DeVonta Smith, if it wasn't for Marvin Harrison Jr., reminds me of Marvin Harrison and how he plays football. So I really think this hire of Kellen Moore, the biggest benefactor of that the most, other than Jalen Hurts, was DeVonta.
Oh man, because you're right. Because I got to see Keenan Allen just explode last year. I mean, he averaged more than 10 targets a game. Part of it was because Mike Williams got hurt early, but still, he was the focal point of that offense. And so, love it.
I mean,
love it.
Even when his rookie season, the Chargers had plans for Quentin Johnson that didn't, really translate. So they asked Keenan Allen to step up because he had to. But again, the system was perfect for Keenan Allen just as much as it's DeVonta Smith and Keenan Allen play similar styles of wide receivers. So this system is really, when they went out and hired Kellen Moore, they didn't just do it because, hey, we interviewed him once and we liked him. They also did it because they said, look what he did with Dak. That's what we need with Jalen at this point in his career. And look what he can do with DeVonta. because they already know what we have in AJ. AJ won in a bad offense. He's won in bad offenses before, in bad passing offenses before in Tennessee. We know what he can do it. He won in a bad offensive system with Brian Johnson and would set records. We obviously understand this guy can do anything we throw at him. But let's try to make it simpler and easier for other guys like DeVonta and Jalen so that they can maximize their talents even more. And that's what they did with this hire.
Oh, phenomenal. Well, let's jump into Saquon, because this is a guy who got almost 1,300 total yards behind one of the worst offensive lines that was just decimated by injuries last year. Now you put him behind a Jeff Stoutland group, and I know but you mentioned Cam Jurgens. He was Jason Kelsey's chosen successor.
Yep.
And you still got those monsters on the side on each of the tackles. So running behind this offensive line, you use the Christian McCaffrey one. That one just kind of like it confirmed a lot of things for me. But where do you see him taking this offense where maybe DeAndre Swift couldn't do it last year?
And nobody's saying, look, Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the league, but Saquon is incredibly talented. He was drafted number 2 overall for a reason coming out of Penn State. Everybody knew he was phenomenal. Like you just said, what he put off with the Giants behind their offensive line was unheard of from a running back standpoint, because he really carried their offense for years to come. What you did was you added that type of impact, like a Christian McCaffrey, to the 49ers. Like, Elijah Mitchell was just fine. Nobody was saying that Elijah Mitchell was bad for that 49ers offense. Everybody thought that their rushing attack was fine. And people kind of scratched their heads of like, why did the 49ers felt they need to do that? And then ever since, we're like, oh, okay, that's why. what he possibly do. And that's the same's going to happen for the Eagles, because the Eagles have never done this. They don't go out and pay running backs. They haven't paid a running back since I know they signed DeMarco Murray, but that was really Chip Kelly. They haven't really paid a running back since LaShawn McCoy, and the reason why they paid LaShawn McCoy is because he was top 3 talent in the NFL at the time. That's what they're doing with Saquon now, because they know that's not the type of impact he can bring to their offense. They just want to make it easier for Jalen. That's always what they want to do. And I know people are like, well, isn't that saying how limited your quarterback is then? No, because that's if you're going to say that Jalen's limited, then you're also saying Brock Purdy is, in a sense. And I don't think that's the truth anymore. I think he proved that wrong last year. So I think what you're doing with this Saquon edition is you're saying, let's go win a Super Bowl. Let's go to the Super Bowl. Let's keep going to these Super Bowls. Let's keep winning. Let's keep being a top team in the NFL when our defense needs us on offense to carry this team. Because that's still going to be the same case this year, regardless of the hires that they made.
It's interesting because when you're talking about this, I'm thinking about the offensive environment that he left. There was no big time wide receiver that was helping. There was Darren Waller was on the field for a handful of games last year, so you didn't have any kind of real threat in the passing game. Now he's not going to see 8 men in a box. Because you got to respect AJ Brown, and DeVonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and you got to have a spy to keep an eye, just in case Jalen Hurts wants to run. I just look at I look at him, and he's one of like 6 running backs that I look at for this year, maybe 7 that I would have as my anchor running back, that I would feel comfortable as my anchor running back. And there's the guys that are going in the first round. I think Saquon and Jonathan Taylor going in the second round. I know it's really sexy to go receiver in the first 2 rounds, but if I can come away with one of the top flight receivers and one of these running backs, I would be very comfortable with Saquon being the first running back I take. And then maybe I wait till like the 7th or 8th round for my number 2, because
he's a really good receiver too.
Yeah.
The Eagles don't really I know we were about this. The Eagles don't have a wide receiver 3. They really don't. But they paid.
He might be the wide receiver 3.
right. No,
or the 4th target after.
I know I'm saying Goedert too, but Goedert also has an injury history too that you have to be concerned about. But they're going to pass the ball to Saquon a lot this year too. He's a really, really, really good receiver. So you have to factor that into the equation when you're talking about fantasy and what he's going to be able to do from a receiving standpoint as well. And I know I don't want to deter people with the Jason Kelsey talk because Landon Dickerson, I know you were talking about the tackles, but Landon Dickerson's one of the best left guards in the league. And
Yeah.
I think Tyler Steen is going to fill in just fine for this Eagle. And if not, that they're going to plug in Mekhi Becton at right guard, who's also a
A
big,
former
huge,
number one pick,
smaller.
first
Yeah.
round pick.
So they're going to be fine on the offense. It's going to take time for them to nail down some chemistry, but that's from a passing standpoint so that they can protect Jalen Hurts. From a rushing standpoint, that thing's going to go right away. Cam Jurgens is a great run blocker right off the bat. So that's they're not going to miss a beat from run blocking standpoint. I don't want to say they're going to miss a beat because Jason Kelsey was amazing with that, but they're going to be fine in that department. It's more so the pass blocking department. But you can't forget what Saquon can do as a receiver. You've seen it in New York. He was really Daniel Jones' guy to throw to. It's going to be the same thing here for Jalen Hurts as well, because when you see guys, when he sees that safety up the top that's watching AJ Brown and he's not comfortable throwing to where DeVonta Smith is in the middle of the field because he sees some guy lurking and he doesn't want to throw a hospital ball to him, he's going to throw to Saquon. So it's going to be. I'm so excited for this offense to see what this offense is do, and I that's why I really try to tell people, because everybody's like, well, there's too many mouths to feed. They can't all be that amazing fantasy wise. Yes, they can. They hired an offensive coordinator who has done things in this league that has number one in points per game with Dallas Cowboys, with their offensive weapons that they had. They had multiple weapons back then, and they were able to make it work and be one of the top scoring offenses in the league. That's what the Eagles have to do this year with this changes that they have on defense and not having the best defensive players anymore.
Yeah, I think Zeke had a season with I think 75 or 76 receptions under Kellen Moore. So yes. I mean, I look at this, and you know what? You talked about the other side of the ball. You touched on it already. Obviously, they really felt the need to go after, because they went cornerback with the first two picks, because that unit went from being one of the best ones in the Super Bowl year. And by the end of the season, probably the back half of the season, if you're playing Philly, I'm going against that. I'm going against that team. It usually takes guys some time. Not everybody comes into the Sauce Gardner as a lockdown cornerback right off the bat. But it may be getting to the middle. But yeah, that we could still be seeing some shootouts, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, I love what they did through the draft with the secondary. I love Quinton Mitchell. I think he's going to be a great player in this league, and I think Cooper DeJean is really like that Brian Branch type defensive back.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he's going to be like a lockdown outside corner. I think they're going to be able to move him around and make him a chess piece type defensive back like Brian Branch was for Detroit, and that's perfect. I think in this era of football, you don't have to be a set position at DB to be a successful DB in this league. You can move you all around and be a chess piece, and that's an actual needed position to be a successful defense in the secondary in this league nowadays. So I don't think these guys will pick it up year one under Vic, especially in this Vango system. It's harsh on corners. It's harsh on the secondary. So I still believe there's going to be nothing but shootouts this season. And I think because you look at the Eagles offense, they can match any shootout with any team now with how they stack up. With not only with the weapons that they have, because they have these. I know everybody's like, well, they had the weapons last year and the offense fell apart. Other than Saquon, the system is completely different. It's meant to be in shootouts. They hired Kellen Moore because they anticipated being in shootouts with the transitions they're making on defense. So I 100% believe that. I think you're going to see that right out the gate. I think you're going to see Philadelphia frustrated with another defensive coordinator like they always are, and high scoring games that shouldn't be high scoring games, because the Eagles were getting shootouts with Washington. With Sam Howell, they were getting in shootouts. So it doesn't take a special talent or a special offense to get in shootouts with this Eagles defense. It's going to happen throughout the schedule. But I think the Eagles they have enough firepower to come out on top of those shootouts. But that's just music to our fantasy years, though, correct?
Absolutely. Musica. I mean, I'm going to toast to that. I'm going to be saying salud to every shootout I see with the Eagles, where I'm just targeting it in with my teams. And nothing better. Week 17, Dallas against Philly. I think it's just
for the division, and
that's
what like it always is.
Oh man, if only. I mean, it's not possible to get CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown on the same team, but you get CeeDee Lamb and DeVonta Smith or something like that. I think that just could be fun. I mean, if you could stack that game, you're ready. You're ready for Week 17, championship week. Oh, that's one of the games I'm really targeting this year. So
100%. And you get CD Lamb and DeVonta Smith, you're probably going to win your league this year. I'm not going to lie, just without the production they're going to have. Because again, CD's going to be force fed. He has to be, and it doesn't matter if he's force fed. You still can't stop him. And I really think, like I said, this is going to be the year where you're like, wow, I knew DeVonta was good, but I didn't know he was that good.
Yeah. Ooh, man. Oh, mi amigo. All right. I think we hit everybody. I love this team because it's so concentrated. With the stars are really.
I gotta take my L on that Kenny Gainwell take last year, though.
Está bien.
That was a little rough on my part. I apologize. DeAndre Swift came in and did his thing, but again, the Eagles' offense fell apart completely. So it's not gonna happen this year. They gave him Saquon $38 million, folks. Don't touch any of the Eagles' backup running backs.
Follow el dinero. Sigue el dinero. Follow the money.
Follow the money. Yes, Saquon's got $38 million, and they're gonna. And again, it's a 3-year contract. They can get out of it after year 2. They are going to force feed this guy. They are going to give him multiple opportunities to earn that money and put, tread on those tires because they have to. They have to maximize what they can get out of him during his prime.
Well, and hopefully it's a situation where it's similar to where it's worked out so well like it did with the 49ers that they gave him a McCaffrey another contract. In a couple of years, maybe they're giving another contract to Saquon. Hopefully. He's
got to stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy. I know CMC had those issues too as well when he coming out of Carolina to San Francisco, and those are pretty much gone away up to this point. So hopefully that's the same with the Eagles as well with Saquon. But it's going to be an exciting year on offense if you're an Eagles fan. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, go. On CMC, go figure. When the big guys on the other team get blocked by the guys in front of you, and you don't take the big hits from those guys. So maybe that keeps you a little bit more healthy. So hopefully the same thing for Saquon.
Definitely.
Mi amigo, before we close it out, I want you to. You always have some fun Mexican food takes, or if you want margaritas, tequila, whatever. The floor is yours. I want you to what you're looking forward to this summer. To enjoy.
I'm always down for, like we always talk about, the shrimp tacos are always my favorite. Sure. I'm always my go-to. I'm gonna lean to more. I want to do some steak teriyaki tacos. I think that is really something that I haven't really got into that I really want to start trying a little bit more. I really like those a lot.
Ooh, I love the idea. Oh, mix a little fusion. Love it.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Love it.
And then
go ahead.
I just want to shout out the show real quick. We were returning for training camp for Eagles Unfiltered. So training camp's around the corner. Eagles Unfiltered will be back. Please tune in. Ed Krass from Sports Illustrated is still with me as well as my co-host. So we're going to have some great times talking Eagles football this year. He'll be giving some live training camp reports to the podcast as well with his observations that he's seen in camp. So don't forget to miss that. And again, he does not give off that typical media cliche crap with the Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni at odds. No, nothing of that. He just gives you straight facts on what he's seeing with his eyes on the field.
Love it. That's why I love it. That's why I keep going back to you, because straight facts. Oh, mi amigo. Thank you so much. So you make sure you're following at Snipe Miles on Twitter, X, whatever people are calling it these days. So Conor, mi amigo, muchas gracias. And everybody, make sure one more time you're following Familia FFB on YouTube. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, get the great content that's coming in. The knowledge that people is dropping has been fantastic, and I see the numbers growing in our subscribers. So once again, you can find me at Jorge Martin 17 on Twitter. My content is going out there from RotoWire, from Yahoo, Fantasy Pros, all over the place. Gonna be, been doing a lot of baseball this year. Definitely gonna be doing lots of football. And here on Familia FFB, also make sure you're giving a like and subscribe to the Injury Prone podcast. Dr. Owen Porras and I are dropping some weekly injury updates. Right now, we're concentrating on guys who are coming out who were injured last year. We're looking ahead. We're going to be looking ahead once training camp starts. So make sure you give a like and subscribe. So muchas gracias otra vez, Conor. Muchas gracias everybody for joining us. And remember, todos somos familia. Salud.
Love it, man.